Most people think quitting sugar is supposed to feel empowering right away, lighter, cleaner, easier. But if you've ever tried it, you know the first days feel nothing like that. You wake up with a dull headache. Your mood feels off for no clear reason. You're not exactly hungry, yet your mind keeps reaching for something it can't quite name. And in that moment, a dangerous thought appears. Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm just bad at self-control. But what if none of that is true? What if the discomfort you feel isn't failure, weakness, or lack of discipline, but the very first sign that your body has started to change direction? What if the unease is not your body breaking down, but recalibrating after years of constant stimulation? Because the moment sugar disappears, something inside you reacts immediately. Not your waistline, not your metabolism, but your brain. And understanding that reaction changes everything about how these first days feel. The first real shock of quitting sugar doesn't come from your stomach. It comes from your brain. Within hours of removing sugar, dopamine, the chemical your brain uses to anticipate pleasure, begins to fall. And when dopamine drops quickly, the brain doesn't respond calmly. It reacts with urgency. Restlessness creeps in. Irritability feels sharper than usual. Small things suddenly feel overwhelming. Not because you're weak, but because your reward system has lost its fastest, most familiar trigger. For years, sugar trained your brain to expect effortless stimulation, a quick hit, a predictable lift. When that signal disappears overnight, the brain interprets it as a problem that needs solving immediately. This is why you can feel agitated even when your stomach is calm. This is why cravings feel emotional rather than physical. Scientists call this hedonic hunger craving, driven by habit and anticipation, not by real energy needs. And here's the part most people never hear. The discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that your dopamine receptors are waking up again. Frequent sugar intake dulls these receptors over time, forcing you to chase stronger sweetness just to feel normal. When sugar is removed, sensitivity slowly begins to return. That process feels unsettling at first, almost like a mild withdrawal. Headaches, mood swings, and that restless edge are not proof that you need sugar. They are evidence that your brain is recalibrating after years of overstimulation. This is why the first 3 days feel louder emotionally than they do physically. You're not starving. You're not failing. Your nervous system is renegotiating what pleasure is supposed to feel like without artificial spikes. And while that chaos is unfolding upstairs, something quieter but just as important is already shifting elsewhere in your body. While your brain is still adjusting to the loss of constant sugar stimulation, another system responds almost immediately, and most people never realize it. The moment blood sugar stabilizes and insulin begins to fall, your kidneys quietly change how they manage fluid. For years, elevated insulin acted like a hidden signal, telling them to hold on to sodium. And where sodium goes, water follows. That's why so many people carry extra fluid without noticing it. Puffiness in the face, heaviness around the eyes, a feeling of pressure that never quite goes away. When sugar is removed and insulin drops, your kidneys interpret this as permission to release that pressure. Sodium begins leaving through urine, and water follows right behind it. This is why the first visible change many people notice has nothing to do with fat. Your face looks less swollen in the morning, your jawline feels sharper, your eyelids feel lighter. The scale may even drop by 2 to 5 pounds in the first week. But here's the critical clarification most videos never make. This early weight loss is not body fat. It's water. Every gram of glycogen your body stored was bound to roughly 3 grams of water. As insulin falls, those water reserves empty quickly. This rapid shift can feel encouraging, but it also explains why dizziness, fatigue, or that so-called sugar flu can show up unexpectedly. The problem isn't the absence of sugar. It's the sudden loss of electrolytes leaving alongside that water. Drinking more plain water alone often makes this worse. What your body actually needs is balance, sodium, potassium, magnesium replaced gently so your internal chemistry can stabilize again. Once that balance returns, your kidneys begin working with less strain than before. This isn't a cosmetic change, it's physiological relief. Your body is reducing metabolic load, clearing space for the deeper transition that comes next. Because once excess water is gone, your system has no choice but to confront a much bigger question: how it will fuel itself without sugar. Around the end of the first week, many people hit the moment that feels the most discouraging. The visible changes slow down. The early water weight is gone, and suddenly, energy becomes unpredictable. You may feel fine 1 hour, then unusually tired the next. Concentration slips, thoughts feel heavier, as if a thin fog has settled over your mind. This is the point where people assume something is wrong, but this dip is not regression. It is transition. For most of your life, glucose has been your body's default fuel. It burns fast, lights up quickly, and disappears just as fast. When sugar intake stops and glycogen stores run low, that convenient system can no longer carry the load. So your body turns to an older, slower, more durable solution. Your liver begins producing glucose through gluconeogenesis, not from sugar, but from internal substrates carefully rationed to protect the cells that truly need it. Red blood cells, certain kidney cells, specific regions of the brain. This controlled distribution feels uncomfortable because your body is abandoning convenience in favor of efficiency. This is the metabolic friction of flexibility being rebuilt. Researchers describe metabolic flexibility as a lost advantage one modern diets quietly erase. And here's the paradox almost no one talks about. Your weakest feeling days arrive right before your strongest metabolic phase begins. As glucose becomes scarce, enzymes responsible for breaking down fat become more active. Fatty acids begin supplying steadier energy to muscles. Meanwhile, mitochondria are forced to adapt, increasing efficiency to support this new fuel landscape. That adaptation takes time, and during that window, fatigue feels louder than progress. Your brain resists as well. It's learning to transition from glucose toward ketones, cleaner burning fuel, but one that requires neural adjustment. The fog you feel is not damage, it's rewiring. Once this shift stabilizes, energy no longer spikes and crashes the way it did before. But before that smoothness arrives, your body must pass through this awkward middle ground. And, as uncomfortable as it feels, this phase marks the moment your metabolism stops reacting and starts recalibrating from the inside out. Once your body is no longer constantly fighting blood sugar swings, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. Inflammation starts to quiet down. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily. In ways you can feel before you can fully explain them. Your joints feel less stiff when you wake up. Your face looks calmer in the mirror. Your skin appears brighter, not because of a product, but because the internal stress that once pulled it tight is easing. This shift isn't cosmetic luck. It's biochemistry. For years, excess glucose attached itself to proteins through a process called glycation, creating compounds that stiffen collagen and accelerate visible aging. Think of it as molecular rust forming slowly over time. When sugar intake drops, that rusting process slows. Collagen fibers regain flexibility. Tissues stop bracing against constant irritation. At the same time, inflammatory messengers, cytokines that quietly amplify pain, swelling, and fatigue begin to decline. This is why breakouts soften, redness fades, and that tired, inflamed look starts disappearing. But the deeper change is happening at the cellular level. With fewer sugar spikes, mitochondria experience less oxidative stress. They waste less energy managing damage and can redirect that energy toward repair. This efficiency shows up as steadier energy and a sense of physical ease you may not have felt in years. Even your immune system becomes calmer, no longer triggered by the constant metabolic noise sugar creates. Your body isn't just losing inflammation, it's reallocating energy toward healing. And as this internal environment stabilizes, it sets the stage for a final, unexpected transformation. One that doesn't show up on the scale or the skin, but on your tongue, in your appetite, and in the way food itself begins to feel. By the second week, a shift begins that most people never expect. It doesn't happen in your muscles or on the scale. It happens on your tongue and then travels straight to your brain. Taste buds regenerate roughly every 10 days, and without constant sugar exposure, the new ones aren't dulled by excess sweetness. Suddenly, foods that once felt bland start tasting vivid again. A simple apple tastes sweet. Nuts taste richer. Even vegetables carry depth you forgot was there. This isn't willpower. It's sensory sensitivity returning. But taste is only the surface. Beneath it, hormones that control appetite finally start speaking clearly again. When insulin stays lower, your brain can hear leptin, the signal that says enough, without interference. For years, high sugar intake muted that signal, creating the illusion of endless hunger and constant snacking. Now, that noise fades. You feel satisfied sooner, sometimes surprisingly so. And then, there's the brain itself. Reduced sugar intake increases BDNF, a growth factor linked to learning, memory, and emotional regulation. Think of it as fertilizer for neural connections. As BDNF rises, mental steadiness returns. Emotional eating loosens its grip. Food stops being a source of stimulation and becomes what it was meant to be: nourishment. This is the moment many people describe as food freedom. Not because rules got stricter, but because cravings stopped running the show. Meals feel complete, portions feel intuitive. And without realizing it, you stop negotiating with yourself around food. This recalibration doesn't announce itself loudly. It settles in quietly, signaling that your body has finished resetting its internal signals and is ready for something deeper than short-term change. By the end of 2 weeks, it becomes clear that this wasn't about discipline or deprivation. It was a reset, a biological mirror that briefly showed you how your body functions when constant sugar stimulation steps out of the way. Dopamine recalibrated, kidneys released pressure, inflammation softened. Appetite signals found their voice again. But this clarity comes with responsibility. For people using insulin or blood sugar-lowering medications, abrupt sugar reduction can increase the risk of hypoglycemia unless dosages are adjusted with medical guidance. For those under chronic stress, cutting carbohydrates too aggressively can elevate cortisol, disrupting sleep and mood. And there's a quieter risk as well, when clean eating turns rigid, when food choices become a source of anxiety instead of nourishment. Health is awareness, not punishment. Balance, not extremes. The most interesting outcome many people report isn't fear of sugar, but indifference. Old cravings fade. Sweetness feels optional, not necessary. Not because of rules, but because biology stops requesting it. This is the quiet shift that lasts. And whatever path you choose next, remember this: your body is not fragile. It is adaptive, intelligent, and far more capable of recalibration than you were ever taught to believe. If this journey resonated with you, pause for a moment and notice where you are right now. Not where you think you should be, but where your body actually is. Awareness like this doesn't come from pushing harder. It comes from listening more closely. If you're somewhere along this reset, even in the early days, your experience matters. Let me know where you are in the process, or which change surprised you most. And if this perspective helped you understand your body a little better, stay with the channel. We explore health, not through extremes, but through clarity, one biological truth at a time.